that most teens in high school, college students are on this blueprint of life where you study hard to get good grades, to get into a good
school.
Exactly. In order to get a good
job.
To make a lot of
money.
Therefore, you're going to be
so happy.
Exactly. And so that was like the blueprint that most of us grew up on.
Okay.
And I bought into it, and I did it, realizing that I'm waiting for my happiness, I'm waiting for the sense of success, and it really never kind of happened. And other things in my life that came along that offered a lot of challenges. And so when I went through coach training, there was all these great principles, foundation principles, life principles, universal principles. And what I came up with 5 core that I want to find a way to communicate to high school students, to college students, to 20-somethings that can be an alternative blueprint to study hard, grades, college. Because most of us who buy that get very disappointed. We don't have happiness. As a matter of fact, there's greater wealth in this world than there's ever been, and there's more people who are no more satisfied or happy.
Yeah.
That, you know, money doesn't bring happiness, that kind of stuff really is true. And there's a lot of people who are very unhappy, very negative. And so instead of dealing with the adults who are kind of already been there, done that, was going to the teens and youth. So my 5 core principles, the first one is I am who I choose to be. And that kids often feel they don't have a choice. And so I want them to understand that I am who I choose to be. Core principle number 2 is that there are no mistakes, only opportunities.
Oh, yeah. I use one, there's no mistakes, only lessons.
Yeah. So it's the same kind of concept. And most kids are told you need to make mistakes. And if you need to make mistakes because you need to learn from those mistakes, then actually there are life opportunities. And that most of us who are adults, we look back on our life based on previous, what we call mistakes, we wouldn't be where we are. Like I wouldn't be sitting here with you had it not been for 5 or 6 so-called mistakes, which were actually opportunities that were created in my life. And that we want them to engage those opportunities and take the pressure. So I am who I choose to be. There are no mistakes, only opportunities. Life is a journey, not a destination. That when you help young people understand that you're on the long haul, that life really is this great sense, the peaks and valleys and ups and downs. Core principle number 4 is I'm greater than I appear to be. That young people are very, very consumed with their self-image. From what's being hit media-wise, what they see on TV, what they hear in music, what they see in movies. And they're often very beat up about how they see themselves. And I want them to know that they're greater than they appear to be. And the 5th core principle is I'm here for a special purpose.
Those are great.
Yeah.
I bet if more universities and colleges actually put something like that into their curriculum, because we're throwing how many thousands of dollars at the young people to say, get that degree so you can say, hey, I went to Harvard, I went to Rutgers, I went wherever. But they're leaving, like you said, after the money and not after, here's my passion, this is what makes me happy, this is what I feel my purpose is. Because if you can drill into what that is, there is a way to get revenue flow and being creative from that.
And the
fear blocks that.
Absolutely, because they're afraid they're not going to get into good school. You ask any high school, college student, or actually high school student, where they want to go to a good college, but they're not able to articulate what a good college is. Do you know how many colleges are in this country?
No.
4,322.
4,322, just in the United States?
Yes, just in the United States.
Okay.
Of those, how many are good?
4,000.
4,322.
What is good? Like,
well, that's the whole point. But when high school kids, they think there's 8 good colleges.
Okay.
Harvard, Yale, Stanford, Michigan State, Penn State, whatever it is. But the reality is there, wherever you go and wherever you're successful, wherever you get your college degree, is what you're good. And there's such this pressure about having to go to the good college. And in particular, we live here in the Northeast. It's really, really competitive.
Well, because, you know, you walk down the streets of Manhattan, and there are these fabulous brownstones that are dedicated to some of these great universities. And we have breakfast in them, and that's part of the illusion of membership and
that's
privilege,
part of, and that's part of what we sell them. We sell them that if you go to college and go to a good college and make a lot of money, you're going to be successful and happy. And what happens is most people, there's very, very successful people with lots of money, and they have houses, and they fly all over the place, but they're really not happy. They're not satisfied. That's why it's called the midlife crisis. Because they go back to a time when they're in their 20s, we call the quarter-life crisis.
Tell me about it. I love that phrase. Did you create that, the quarter-life crisis?
I cannot own that.
Okay.
It is certainly borrowed, but it is...
but you taught it to me, so I'll think of you being the owner.
At Project Next, we do talk about what is called the quarter-life crisis.
Okay.
And we believe the midlife crisis has the seeds in the quarter-life crisis, meaning that when you're right in your mid-20s, most people are trying to freak out, what is I'm supposed to do? Am I supposed to follow my dreams? I was always told I was a wonderful dancer, I was a wonderful this, whatever that. But now I'm supposed to have responsibility. I'm out of school now. My parents are telling me to get a job. I have to have a career. And so you're at this crisis moment of, what am I going to do when I grow up? And so you feel you have to do something. Now, the amazing thing is this generation of millennials are probably going to have 14 different jobs by the time they're in their mid-30s.
14 jobs by mid-30s.
Mid-30s, which is incredible, which is completely different than any other generation in history. but yet we're still concerned about what it is I'm supposed to be when I grow up. And so people who are in their 20s, post-college, we call that in crisis. Those who are in college, they're near crisis, and the high school kids we talk with are pre-crisis.
Pre-crisis. So what are we?
We're post-crisis.
We're post, but you know,
or the midlife.
Or we're just really resilient. And we're like, it is what it is, but
Well,
love life. I mean, that's,
there's a negative. There's research that has been done that 3 out of 4 people, 75% of us, live in what's called negative energy. That we're negative. That no matter what we see, we live in victim mentality, or if we're not in victim mentality, we're in conflict and we're fighting all the time.
The cup is 2 drops full.
Whatever it is, things aren't going my way. Why me? What did I do to deserve this? I've done all this, I've created all this, and my kids don't get along with me. Some very successful people are very, very busy, but yet their kids are disconnected, are disengaged.
Is that part of the elements of Project Next Gen, is helping coach to those parents and reconnect with families?
Absolutely, and that's a lot of stuff that we do, whether their kids are in college, whether their kids are in their 20s. What we focus on is how do we communicate in a way that's healthy, that a lot of parents wake up one morning, they go, I have a stranger in my house. This kid has literally transformed him or herself overnight, and I don't know who this kid is. And the kid looks at the mom and dad, they're hypocritical, they annoy them, and the last thing they want to do is spend time with them. And it creates for very unhealthy living, very unhappy living, and it creates a lot of negativity that, if you can find a way to get past it, because a lot of it is the parents fear that something's going to happen to their kid.
Yeah.
The kid's going to, become a drug addict, is become a drug dealer, is going to become an alcoholic, and all this fear-based parenting is creating such wedges between our youth and their parents that it's really a negative in nature. It's out of love, of concern.
But it's having a bad effect.
The opposite effect.
So what are some tips that you could tell the parents that have high schoolers up and coming, because those hormones kick in and everyone's like, run for the hills, ship them off to grandma's. There's always a joke, I'm going to ship my children to you at this age and send them back when they're 21. When you have children in that age, what are some tips of advice that you are giving these parents to help mend those gaps and just give them pause for thought instead of just jumping on them and judging the kids and putting them in a box? Or
I use the same 5 core principles with parents. I am who I choose to be. Life's a journey, not a destination.
For them to reflect on as a parent?
Absolutely.
Okay.
The one I love talking the most with parents is there are no mistakes, only opportunities. Parents are also afraid of making mistakes, about making the wrong choice.
That's the biggest mistake you can make, is feeling like you screw up your kid.
Yeah, and part of it is if you come from a place of love, no matter what you do, if you're coming from love, then you cannot make a mistake because you love your child. There are so many ways. I often joke when I speak to parents, I ask them to bring out their user's guide that they were given at the hospital.
Yeah, I lost mine.
And the amazing thing is there's always someone who'll raise their hand, I never got mine. And
I
never got mine. And I'm like, well, yeah. But people are looking for ways to be a parent because most of us spend thousands upon tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands of dollars on our education of what it means to do it for our profession. We don't spend anywhere near $200 what it means to be a parent.
Yeah, once you have what to expect, what you're expecting,
Well,
maybe a happy sleep book, and then you're
and there's some stuff, and there's Dr. Spock,
Yeah.
which is old school, but when it comes to the teen, is how do you engage? And there's not how to listen and really listen, how to engage, come from love. I always tell the teens in which I work with, in particular my own kids, I say, as long as your grades are more important to you, they are to me, then we're going to be fine. But most parents, their kids' grades are much more important to them than they are to their own kids. Now, the kids understand the importance of grades, but it is nowhere near the same level of importance as it is to the parent.
How important are you finding it for young people to have some sort of internship or to start dabbling in different areas where they think they're interested in before college and during internships, so when they are coming out into this big bad world, I say that ironically because I don't think it's a big bad world, but it's a more interesting world now with less jobs waiting for them than there ever was, than the years past. Does that help give them a step up if they're having that business experience, you think?
I will answer it twofold. I think you can spend the rest of your life working. I think that experience comes in any direction you head. Whether you're climbing in Central America on a youth tour, you're visiting Poland on a trip with a bunch of teens, or working as an intern in insurance, a big 6 insurance company. That internship is what you learn, how you take those skills you learn from that and coordinate that and communicate that into the job force. That a camp counselor has tremendous skill sets, but it's often seen as not that significant. But a kid who's a camp counselor understands interpersonal relationships, understands organization, time management, and priorities. And that is just as important a job as someone who goes to an insurance company and files, but because they're a big company called internship, that seems to be something more significant. And so when I work with kids, you got your whole life to work. I want you to do something you're going to benefit from, that you're going to take with you, because life is a journey, not a destination.
And have some fun during those years.
Now, there are parents, I tell off the bat,
Yeah.
I see life through a whole shade of rosy glasses that are not necessarily normal. I'm the first adult your kid's going to meet that's not going to tell them what to do. I'm the first adult that's going to tell them, you're right where you're supposed to be. I'm not going to stress 98% of the kids that I meet, be fine. 98%, 99%. Every parent that comes to me thinks their kid is the 1% that's not. Hey, Coach, can you fix my kid?
Yeah.
Your kid's not broke.
Yeah.
Your kid's right where they need to be. And so we need to have a lot more faith. We tell our kids they're wonderful, but yet we don't believe in them in the same way they need to be believed in.
So why do you think that is? Was it always like that, or do you think because we feel that there's more dangerous things out there now? You know,
Well, the consequences are much more dire.
Yeah.
I mean, those back in the 70s and 80s who have kids now are turning teenagers who may have drank in certain ways. If you got caught, the consequences were much different. Nowadays, if you get caught with a DUI, you don't, there's no federal funding for you for your kid in college loans. I'm not sure most parents know
Wow.
that.
I didn't know
If you're,
that.
so the consequences, and that's partly because of things that have happened in the past. And so parents are concerned. There are drugs out there that are much more lethal, much more significant, much more dangerous. And kids will be kids. By the same token, one bad choice can really impact an entire future.
Yeah.
And parents,
Well, just like the Facebook pictures and the MySpace and all
there's
those
websites
elements
out there.
before
There's Chat Roulette, which is a whole different one. There's a whole website out there for kids where you can put your name out
Oh,
there,
I heard
and
about that. I just read about
people
that.
can give you their opinion on you.
Oh, really?
Yes, it is unbelievable. I don't even
I
want
was
to share
thinking
that.
of a different one. Yeah, there's just so many things
So
out
this
there.
virtual world is very scary, and kids don't realize. I mean, the cell phones and pictures, they don't understand the consequences the same way as an adult does.
That's gonna, before they even get to launch themselves,
Yeah.
their brand is being
Absolutely.
made. So we're gonna be closing up this segment shortly, and I want our audience to know how they can get a hold of you.
Thank
So
you.
how can we get a hold of you?
The company's name is Project NextGen. It's projectnextgen.com, and you can reach me by Coach Randy at projectnextgen.com.
Very good. And people would contact you for your work with the millennials, for career coaching, and for the career transition boot camps to help
Exactly.
get them back into the swing of things and learning more about the networking, the interviewing, and the power of a good resume.
Absolutely, and I
Being
speak,
on
and I
that.
do a lot of speaking in companies and schools and camps too.
Okay, that's great. Thank you so much for being on the Career
Thank you for
Corner.
inviting me, Heather.
Thank you so much for joining us on the Career Corner. I look forward to hearing from you on heatherswift.net if you have any other ideas about what you would like to see on the Career Corner. And thank you very much for joining us. Until we meet again, I wish you much career success.